Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode on the official Hermitcraft Modsauce server. I was doing this last episode, wasn't I? Goofing around on the elevator blocks. Sometimes I just stand here and go up and down, it amuses me. Oh, that is a little bit silly. Anyway, today, this episode, what are we going to be doing? We are going to be doing a little bit of building, and when I say a little bit, I actually mean probably a little bit, because I have a very limited amount of time to record this episode today. Unfortunately, I have some important things to do, and it's going to take up a lot of time, which means I have to really crack on and do as much as I can while we have time to make this episode. So the plan is, as I said, to do a little bit of building. Now I want to talk about what I've done in between episodes. I was actually playing around with rebuilding this corridor, so I noticed that there is quite a bit of space between this one here and this one here, and this is one of the things I've actually got to kind of avoid in this game, is overthinking all of the small details. By the way, the flame spider that we had, I realised that it was going to despawn, and so I picked it up in the safari net again, put it in a chest, and of course I could have used a name tag to make sure it didn't despawn, but you guys should probably name it. So I've got it over here. If you have an idea for the name of that thing, leave it down there in the description box, and I'll pick out a name and we'll name that guy soon. But getting back to what I was talking about, I kind of overthink things a lot. You know, little things like this, I'm wondering, oh, should I rebuild this entire room and just have it so you walk through one of these straight into the next room? Because the plan was always to have a little bit of space, so there would be like a maintenance door and you could go outside into this area. But do you know what? I'm overthinking things, and so I spent a lot of time rebuilding this little bit here and making it so that first pillar on that side was one of these, and that we'd have another entrance just fitting in right at the edge there, and it brought the wall all the way up to this one, and it kind of looked ugly, didn't work right, so I just put it all back to how it was here. So anyway, the building that we're going to be doing in this episode is this room over here. There's really not too much to this room. You can right click on that and that's all you need to do. So I've built something that is certainly outside of the comfort zone that I would normally do. It's a little bit, well, do you know, I can't actually think of a word to describe it, but it's a little bit unusual, I guess you would say, for a room design. So we're going to work on that in a moment. I also need to reset up this quarry so we can remove all of these blocks just behind here, because we're going to need that space. But that room's going to look interesting. We're going to talk about that as we build it, and hopefully we can start work on building a corridor on the other side over here, because that's what I want to do. And the way I'm going to do this is this corridor on this side is going to be for places you go to do tasks like crafting or making something. So we'll have a room for our QED setup, a room for our smeltery, and maybe a room for our assembly table as well. And then on this side it's going to be things that kind of do a job in the background. So we've got the dimensional bridge stabilizer, probably not ever going to interact with that thing again. And on this side we've just got our power room. And by the way, I've upgraded the capacitor bank. We now have, well, I was expecting a higher number than that, 245 million. That is actually a really big number, isn't it? I've been watching too much of D-Max videos. He's got a massive capacitor bank that holds something like 1 billion, I think. But you can see I've extended this thing out. And yeah, the whole having it in one line is kind of silly. I probably need to look at this again and redo the interface, because I really want to have that bar just there on the side so you can come in here and see how much you have. We also have a ton of charcoal. Look at that. That has just been one tree, I think, running at the moment, because, oh no, they've all broken now. They've kind of been running passively. And what's happened down here? Okay, that is a 2-wide tree. That is the smallest 2-wide tree I think I've ever seen. Look at that thing. I don't think I've ever seen one grow so small. These are all broken now, and apparently there is a way to create ones of these that never break. I'm actually going to look into that this episode. That could be another little thing for us to do. So these have all run out, but they've kind of been running passively because, you can see it almost doing it right here. Because this isn't hooked up to our on-off switch yet, it means the trees will grow naturally, and when they grow, these things still break them down. So it's been running on a very slow basis, keeping our fuel up actually, despite us using it, and now all of these have broken. And when I say broken, you can see it says it there. I noticed a lot of comments from where I previously mentioned that people were saying the tools don't break. Well, they don't break and disappear, but they do break, and then you have to repair them to use them again. So anyway, we've got some jobs and things to investigate there as well, actually. So maybe we won't do so much building. As I said, I really do have a limited amount of time. But that is enough chatter for the beginning of this episode. I'm going to work on the room over here, and I think you're going to like it, although it is going to be a little bit unusual. Okay, I've now done a large part of this room, and check it out. I really like these blocks down here. These are dimensional bridge stabilizers, and I've just put them in, as those markers to show you what's going to be in the room. So we know to go into this one, and yes, it is very dark. I've got some torches, And this is really quite different from anything I've done before. Let's throw down a torch so you can actually see what this is. These are the diamond blocks, the ones where you have diamonds and obsidian. I think that's what it's called. And I put them all down to covers, and I built a box. If we pop down here and have a look on the other side, you can see we've got a box like this around it. That's to actually stop any light coming in because there's some glowstone nearby. I wanted to have our light source down the bottom here, which is going to make the room look a little more interesting. But yeah, I decided to do this since I couldn't really think of a building style or a theme that would, suit something like portals. So I decided just to create this. It's kind of like the stars in the night. And then you've got this little pathway around it, and then down here we're going to put some glass here first of all, and then at the bottom we're going to have some lights and some more details, and then it's going to look like, I don't know, the lights coming up and powering the dimensional bridge stabilizer. There's one other thing I want to mention. All of these are kind of like on the inside of the block that they're in, and the ones on the floor aren't. And I was thinking actually I might go around and raise these up by the little measure of block that it is, so they're just above this one right here, which might look better but probably won't make any difference at all. Another fun little fact, I used 29 diamond blocks to make this room. Even though they've all been cut down, we still used a fair amount. And here's another little thing. When I built this in the test world, I actually had this bit right here just one wide, which was alright. It looks, I don't know, doesn't really look quite right too wide, but by bringing it out it means we can have this border going around by one block. Otherwise, if this was further back, it would be 2 blocks and it might look a little odd going the whole way around, 2 and then 1. But that's just me overanalyzing the numbers and stuff. Anyway, let's get to building this next bit. Actually, if I throw down the torch again, I can describe what it's going to be like if I had the right materials on me. I think this is cobblestone right here, so we want more of that stuff right there. We're going to have our light source down the bottom, so we're going to have like a thing like this that is going to come around, and it's going to go around like the one up above does, and then come back down on this side. And then we're going to put some iron blocks on the walls here. So we're going to have something to break up the iron. The iron's going to go the whole way around. And then at the very bottom here, we're going to have our light source, which is actually going to be something I haven't showed you before. I used it on Technical Beast a long time ago. There's a really cool light source block called lamps. And I'm just going to get prepared, and then we'll craft them, and I'll show you how they work. So these are the lamps on the side here. You have inverted ones and regular ones. So like Minecraft lamps, if you power them, they turn on. If they're inverted by default, they'll be on until you power them, and then they turn off, which is pretty cool. But to make these, you need some special kind of dyes, or I don't know what it's called actually. There you go, Illuma. You need these to go in, and they're a little bit expensive. I don't know, in the beginning here, where we don't have too many dyes, I guess that costs a fair bit. 'Cause this is only going to allow us to make 4 of these, and I need a lot more than that. So if we just put the glass around the edge, then we can craft one of these. If we swap that out for a redstone dust like that, that's the regular one. So anyway, if we chuck this down, it's going to be powered by default, which is convenient because... Did that only make 1? I only made 1. I thought I shift-clicked that into my inventory. Apparently I did. It also kind of creates this shape around it. That's interesting. I like that. Does it do it when it's... Oh, that's cool. Okay, so when it illuminates light, it creates like a lighted block around it. That's very cool. Anyway, that's what's going to go at the bottom of our thing. Let's just pick this up so you can see how it's going to affect the lighting. And if we go over here, and we just put a block at the side, and then something like that, that's going to provide some light that comes up. And so you can see already it's illuminating this a little bit. Actually, that's probably the torch doing that. So we're going to have a faint light coming up from below, and then we're also going to put some glass at the top here to add a little bit of detail. But I guess I'm going to have to look at getting some more black dye. Don't know where I'm going to get that from, but when I do, we can finish building this, and I'll be back with you when it's done. So being low on black dye, I decided what I'd do is just fly around outside and look for some, and there's just this stuff everywhere that I'm going to click and point at all of them. There's 3 over there that I can see, and as you fly around, it turns out that these are quite common. There's another one. There's another one over there and there, so it's not going to take me too much time at all. But of course, I think it's 2 flowers for each lamp, and we need 14 in total. So I've almost got what I need, which is good. So this room is almost done. Let's go in and have a look. Looks pretty cool. A little bit lighter now, so you can see what's going on. There's the light down the bottom there. And the last thing we're going to do is add some golden edge glass. Now this stuff is made with thickened glass and gold ingots around it, or nuggets even, and it's got the connected textures edge like this. So we're just going to add a gold trim around the outside, which I think looks really nice. And I also played around with this in creative mode on my server using covers, and you can actually connect all of these with cover-sized blocks, and they join up as well, which is really, really smart. However, if you add like 2 of these blocks together, so let's say you had like a panel on the side of this block, then unfortunately the connected texture no longer works, but it is really cool to know that it does that, and that's the finishing touch on this room, and I think it looks really nice. Obviously not the most interesting of builds, but I didn't have much time today, and that actually turned out pretty cool. So I think the thing we need to do next is do some investigating into these Tinker's tools. So you guys have been telling me that we can make unbreaking ones, so I'm going to go into my creative world and then have a look and see what I can do. So I've been playing around here in creative mode, and I've actually learned a little bit about this and how it works. So this thing right here is reinforced 3, and if you have reinforced X, then the thing becomes unbreakable. So by adding an obsidian plate you get 3 levels, and every other obsidian plate after will add 1 more. So that means you need an additional 7 plates, which is a little bit crazy considering you only get 3 modifiers. So then I realised what you got to do is use paper. And if we switch to that one, it will look proper. There you go. So with this and the obsidian plate, I think you can actually use any piece of obsidian here. Let's actually swap that out like this. Did that work? Reinforced 3? Yes, any piece of obsidian on there. I guess you would probably put obsidian maybe there to get the faster speed. Let's actually see if that's true or not. That one is 89, that's durability. Usage speed 7. Okay, so that would make it slightly faster. But the point being, you get reinforced 3 and you get 6 modifiers. So if we take one of those and we bring it over here, we can actually add more modifiers to this. So in creative mode you can do 1 more, but in survival we would need a nether star, which is quite expensive for where we are. We'd also need one of these, and then the last one would be a diamond block and a golden apple. So really the bottleneck there is the nether star. Now this gives us 9 modifiers in total, and my first thought when learning that you needed to add 7 obsidian plates was that perhaps some of you had not thought about the fact that we need lapis and auto smelt on there as well, but it seems that this is possible, because if we go here, we go reinforced 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then it turns into reinforced X, which is unbreakable. So now we have an unbreakable pick. The durability doesn't matter in the slightest, and it still displays the durability even though it's infinite usage. So then you can go and add your auto smelt, and you can add your lapis as well, and now this thing has no more modifiers, but it will do the job that we want, and it will sit in that machine chopping down trees, which is awesome. Let's go into game mode 0 here and just chop one of these down, so you can see the mining speed itself is not that slow really. That's not slow at all considering that we've used tons of paper on this thing, so it is perfectly possible, but where we are right now with the nether stars it really isn't, because we need to fight a few more withers and I don't have any wither skulls. So there is an alternative method as well actually. I'm not going to talk about this too much just because I haven't had the time to research it, but if we go through here you can add, and let's see, where is it? It's a little bit further along. There is a lot of stuff in this book. There it is, this thing right here. So this is flux, and I realised that where it refers to this thing as redstone flux, that is the RF power that we've been making, so we've already made the correct power for this. So if we add either this thing, which is a flux capacitor, or a leadstone energy cell, which I've been looking at, that's an alternative way to store RF power. If we add one of those to these, then they will be able to be repaired with energy. So then as an alternative, we could actually create something where it has one of these attached, and we take it out of the autonomous activator when it's broken, and then we put it into another chest, it charges it, and then puts it back in again, which I think would actually be really challenging and fun to do. So I'm going to look and see if we can do that for now, as the nether stars are a little out of our reach. So it looks like this way of doing things is going to be possible for us as well. I have created this thing right here, or crafted even, the energetic infuser, and this is actually quite simple to craft. I don't have it up on the side at the moment because I crafted some leadstone flux capacitors. Now in the book it says you can use this thing or one of these on a tool, but it turns out only this one seems to work. The leadstone doesn't, so that thing's pretty useless now. But either way, you know how to use NEI and look these things up. This thing didn't cost a lot to craft, and on the side of it we have attached an energy node with that frequency, so it provides it with RF, and then when you put one of these things in that is uncharged, it's going to charge it up and put it on the other side. And I'm not sure if I've actually got those the correct way around. So orange is the input, and yeah, I've got that the wrong way around, haven't I? What happens if I change that to blue and that one to orange? I'm not sure, I've done it the wrong way around. Anyway, but the idea is pretty simple. Inside this transfer node we have a filter for this right here. So it's going to pull that out if it's inside the machine. Let's put that there. Does it do it? It puts it on the other side, then it gets pulled out and put into this chest. Now this transfer node is only going to pull it out when it's empty. Now I'm not sure what happens when this thing runs out of RF power, because it also has durability as well. You see, I initially put this on this one right here and its durability isn't fully used, so I didn't know how that would work. Now what we could probably do is put a filter on for this when it has 0 RF, or possibly its durability will go down and we have to make one for when it has no RF and it's broken as well. But this thing right here would be our autonomous activator. So that thing though, it would actually punch the tree if there was nothing inside of it. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. So if a tree grows and this thing no longer has the axe in it, it's going to act like it's just punching whatever's in front of it. And if it breaks what's in front of it, when this thing comes back in, it's going to cause a little bit of a problem. I'm going to have to think about that. We need a workaround for that right there, because it could be a problem. Possibly we could use a comparator and say if there's an item in here, then override the input to activate the autonomous activator, but then things are getting a little bit tricky. I really wish I'd thought about that before I'd started recording. But anyway, you can see what's going on here. This is a fairly good idea. It should be possible. Just looks like I've got to brainstorm it a little bit. So I think what I'm going to do is go down there and try this out. And you may have noticed that I've just done this with iron. I don't really have the time to think about what the best materials for this thing are going to be. But possibly it could involve having a modifier for speed so that it chops down the tree ever so slightly quicker. But even that seems kind of unnecessary, I guess you could say, considering how fast this tree farm is with 4 of them. Anyway, so I don't think we're going to need any extra modifiers or any special materials, really, I guess is what I'm saying. So this thing right here might be ideal. But I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to set something up down here, see if I can get what we made up there to work down here. But I think we're going to run into a problem when there's no item inside the autonomous activator. Look at this guy right here. Oh, another little distraction, a bat with a creeper head on. Yeah, so this thing isn't working. I'm a little bit mystified because we are not building on this side over here. Yet if you look, is it doing that thing where it turns to oak saplings? It's not. Maybe this thing's just going to take a while. But it's run out of bone meal as well. I need to fill that back up. So that hasn't grown into a full tree, which makes me worry that maybe this one right here is doing that. That possibly means we could actually put the pipe on this side over here. I will try that. But another thought came to mind is that the charcoal and stuff might catch on some of these drops on some of these blocks, you know, these edges that we've now added to this. So what we might have to do is cover this thing in covers, of all things, and make like a little box back here so when the charcoal lands on it, it can easily get sucked off the side into the vacuum hopper without being caught on anything. But without this actually working, we're not going to be able to test it. So I guess I should fix this first of all. Turns out there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. I've put some more bone meal in and there's plenty to go. This thing is searching for inventories. And look at this, it doesn't pick out any new items when I take that. Why is that broken? There's space up there, but the transfer node isn't working. Do you know what? I've just taken out the, what's it called? The wireless receiver next to it. Maybe that's somehow like caused an update issue here, or powered this without unpowering it. Strange stuff. Okay, there we go. I moved it over onto the side, and as soon as I did that, this thing instantly grown. So that thing solved itself. And down here, it was some sort of redstone update thing. As soon as I powered and unpowered this thing, it started working again. So that is something to keep in mind. Those things can be bug powered, like in vanilla, without receiving updates. So I guess it's time for me to do a test and sit around and wait and see how long. Actually, it doesn't look like it's going to take too long at all, does it? 2 chops of the trees, and we're down to 70,000. That's interesting. This thing isn't going to last long at all before it needs to go back in there, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens while it's outside of that. Okay, there we go. I moved it over onto the side, and as soon as I did that, this thing instantly grown. So that thing solved itself. And down here, it was some sort of redstone update thing. As soon as I powered and unpowered this thing, it started working again. So that is something to keep in mind. Those things can be bug powered, like in vanilla, without receiving updates. So I guess it's time for me to do a test and sit around and wait and see how long. Actually, it doesn't look like it's going to take too long at all, does it? 2 chops of the trees, and we're down to 70,000. That's interesting. This thing isn't going to last long at all before it needs to go back in there, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens while it's outside of that. Okay, potential moment of truth. This should be its last use. 3,600. Durability is 1,800. And it takes away from the durability. Now that's not good. Well, actually, it could be good. Well, it means that the item filter isn't going to take it out, so then we would set the item filter for when this thing is broken. But what if it took the exact amount of RF? Actually, that wouldn't be a problem. If it just happened to go to the exact amount of RF, then this thing would take it out. And when I say exact, I mean 0, without taking away from the durability. But the thing is, if we don't have a filter for that, then we can just make the filter for when the durability is run out as well. Okay, so that's interesting to know. It means we might want to make this more durable, as once the RF power has run out, we can then use up the durability. But what if the durability, when it's broken, is not going to get repaired in this thing over here? Wow, there is quite a lot about this that I haven't considered. So maybe what we have to do is make a tool, break it, then add RF power, and then use it. But if its durability is broken, will its RF mean it can still work? Do you see what I'm getting at there? This might be a little bit more problematic than I initially thought it was. Anyway, I think what I'm going to do is let the durability run down and just see what happens. So it's not fully charged, but it's also broken, and it won't work. It can't break it if you have a look at that. Another thing that I've noticed, these are all broken over here as well. And look, they all get kind of... That was different a moment ago. The broken texture on there, the kind of progress that it shows you, I could have swore that was further along. Same for the rest of these as well. Either way, they never actually break because these things have been here for ages. But there you go. That is a real problem. I don't know how to solve that one now, because when it's broken, it's not going to work. I guess if you had the infinite durability one, then the RF would help with that, but then it's already infinite, so you wouldn't need it. Looks like the other solution is going to be the one. If you have an idea for how to make this work, then leave a comment down below, because at the moment I am scratching my head. But I did say that I wouldn't have much time to do it this day, and I really need to get on with some other jobs and things that I got to do. So I'm going to wrap this one up earlier than usual. And we didn't get too much done today, but we got that room up there done, which I think was good because it looks nice, and it's good to do a little bit of building from episode to episode. But in the next one, I'm hoping to get a lot more done than we did today, but like I said, restrictions kind of got in the way. So I think that is going to wrap this episode up. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.